Swallow is a brand new 2020 drama thriller that's listed as drama thriller horror on IMDb, and I completely disagree with that. There is no horror elements to this at all, but some thriller. More of a drama than anything, but the thriller I feel is warranted. The horror I do not. So I think IMDb should update that, but it is what it is. This stars Haley Bennett, who I think a lot of us confuse with Jennifer Lawrence. I sure as hell did the first time I saw her. And this is about a young woman who is recently married, and she is trying to play the perfect housewife. And while she is, at home by herself all the time, she becomes obsessed with eating objects around the house that are not food. This is known as a pica disorder, I guess. This is something I did know existed, but I just didn't know what it was referred to as until this movie. And she starts with something small, like a marble, and then she starts moving up and escalating things by swallowing things that are much more dangerous, like a tack, or a safety pin, so on and so forth as the movie progresses. Now, when I first heard the premise, I definitely thought this was going to play out more like a horror movie. I thought that this was just going to escalate and escalate and escalate, and she was going to be starting to eat all sorts of crazy shit. It was just going to get out of control. The film never really went there. This is much more of a character study of someone with a mental disorder and, past traumas that they're not willing to deal with, and just a really tragic tale of someone who's trying to get the power back in their life. They feel powerless, and so they go to unorthodox methods to try to feel something or feel some kind of power in their life. And I think Haley gives an incredible performance in this movie. I thought this movie was pretty damn good, man. I was really, really into it the whole time. And every time she would pick something up to think about swallowing it, I was sitting there like, oh, please don't. Please don't. And as more revelations came to the forefront of the story, I started to understand. I started to connect. Now, this is not something that I can relate to because of the specific details of it, but I think a lot of us deal with traumas. I think a lot of us deal with mental issues, and we all have different ways of how we approach handling those things. Some are much healthier than others, but most of them are unhealthy to varying degrees, this being one of the strongest contenders for something that would be extremely unhealthy. Allah could kill you, obviously. And I thought that the characters, while there isn't a ton of them, because this is just mostly focused on her and her husband, but the majority of the film is just her by herself, which adds to the realism of it, because that's kind of her day-to-day life. She's this person who's kind of like in a fish out of water scenario. She's out of her element. She doesn't know that she didn't come from money. She came from a poor background, so this is all fresh and new to her. She doesn't know how to act, and because of all that time alone and because of this setting, she starts to think about things, and some of her traumas come to light. I think really what you're going to watch this for more than anything is the performance, and ultimately where it leads for her as a character. And towards the end, now, I think that people will be disappointed in this movie because they don't feel like it gets to this big dramatic climax where there's all these crazy things happening. But this film just stayed very grounded and very real. And towards the end, there's something that happens at the end at a birthday party that I was just emotionally like, I don't want to say devastated, because I wasn't here like crying or anything, but it was a very devastating scene, and it was a very real scene. It never got, over the top, ridiculously theatrical or anything. It just stayed very grounded and was just a great exploration of this character that I followed for 90 some minutes. And the closeout of it was sad, but kind of uplifting in a way. It's interesting. It's a tragic film for the most part, but I think because of Haley's performance more than anything, that's what really works for this movie. Like, if you just got some basic actress to try to do this role, no, absolutely not. It wouldn't have worked. But she just has so much expression in her face. There is such a sadness inside of her. You really buy that this woman has mental issues in this. You really buy that she has this disorder. She absolutely sells it. Obviously, it's not something most of us would ever have any interest in doing, but she sells it to the audience that she has this disorder. And man, it deals with that so well. Because I personally have dealt with stuff, but I've been around so many people who don't think they have a problem, or hurt themselves to feel something. And this is a great representation of that. So, really good movie. I definitely recommend it for people who are into dramatic portrayals of mental illness, and the lengths people will go to have some kind of whatever they would consider to be healing to them. I don't know why we do the things that we do, the things that hurt us the way they do. As I said before, I guess it's just in an attempt, like in this movie, to gain some kind of power back in your life, or there's a multitude of different reasons why we do it. But the exploration of it in this, I fully bought, and that's, of course, because of the amazing performance in this movie. So I definitely hope people check this one out, and but don't go in expecting horror. You're not going to get it, and that will disappoint some people, because I looked at some reviews on online, and a few of them were like, 1 star, 3 star, whatever, not horror at all. And it's like, oh, well, I went in to think it was going to be horror, but because it was such a strong movie, that's a pretty simple story. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's a pretty basic thing, but the acting takes it in these really interesting places. And yeah, anyway, so let me know. Adios.